Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Brian Papalia. I'm a solutions executive here at eCore, and the title of our webinar today is Streamline Your Digital Journey, 4 questions to ask when scaling Agile within the enterprise. I'm joined today by the wonderful Fernando Horn. He is our technical leader of the Atlassian consulting team. Fernando, go ahead and say hi.
Hey Brian, it's a pleasure to be here with you again.
Yeah, we had a great time last month, and we're looking forward to having another great presentation today and answering those 4 questions. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So today's agenda, we're going to talk about the overall case history, so the overview about the case transformation that we plan on discussing today. The second part of the agenda, of course, is to go over the transformation roadmap and share how those phases for the digital journey were achieved. We're also going to discuss number 3 on the agenda today, which are the critical paths and how to work with those challenges that pop up while you're trying to implement an agile transformation. And finally, number 4, the results of the overall agile transformation and the current status after the digital journey. Of course, we discussed this last month, and we'll say it every month, but here at eCore, we enable companies to deliver technology solutions better and faster. We have proven Atlassian expertise within the enterprise and have more than 12 years of experience in delivering these Atlassian consulting solutions, making our customers more responsive to market changes by speeding their processes. Of course, 250 plus customers served. We added a few customers since our last webinar that are excited to embark on an agile transformation. So hopefully there'll be a discussion point coming up in the near future once those transformations are completed. 45 plus Atlassian certifications, over 30,000 project hours. 9.2 out of 10 for the customer satisfaction, which is awesome. Our customers love working with us, and I feel that that's one of the most important parts in choosing a partner. We have over 75 dedicated consultants that work with the Atlassian toolset and make the best out of it. And as stated earlier, more than 12 years as a partner. Here at eCore, we overcome business challenges by delivering better technologies faster. The Atlassian solutions with agility the market demands. This is important, right? Because whether your company is evaluating its agile practices or needs to implement the right tools to unlock its processes, we provide tailored solutions to support your business growth. And some of those include DevOps, ITSM, software agility, cloud, migration, and of course, training to learn everything that we implement. So we had talked about some of the questions that we wanted to answer today, right, with those 4 questions. And I'll briefly go over them again, and we'll start with the first one. The first one is what happens when you have multiple teams simultaneously adopting Agile across an organization, and how we help this company overcome those challenges. The next question was how we define a long-term plan for Agile implementation in a scaling company. The third one was what tools can we provide to help with the parameters to support the Agile development principles. And finally, what specific processes are needed to adapt these tools to the complexity of migrating across different teams, areas, products, and technologies. So without further ado, I'm going to jump in and let Fernando take over and start discussing the case history. And of course, you'll hear me chime in here and there, but Fernando, it's all yours.
Hey, thank you, Brian. Uh, so guys, I just to before I start the case history, I just want to add more information from the Brian initial stuff. So the main idea about this webinar is not to show uh, Jira, not show Confluence on the practice or do some demo environment for you, but now it's the moment that we can share our experience and at least one specific case from the beginning of the history of Atlassian usage on this company to the agile transformation and the current status right now. So you see a lot of information from our experience, from our work together with this company. And it would be really nice to see that we can answer a lot of questions, not only these forming questions, because this is very important questions that we need to answer, but during this webinar, you can see that, okay, so Brian and Fernando are helping me to understand better when I need to start to think in agile transformation, what is this steps to do that and the main concerns as well. Because we did that, right, Brian? We worked with the customer doing the same steps, and we are working to create a guideline for all our customers because it was a success. So was hard stuff to do, but at the end of this case was really awesome to see the results, right?
Yeah, I'm
So
excited.
it's just
I'm excited to hear about it. So go ahead.
yeah. So this is the main idea. So you'll see a lot of information here, but it's good stuff. So good information that we can share with you guys. If you want to, you can talk with Brian, we can talk with me, and we are here to help as well. Okay. So this is just a small presentation about our case. So we are not saying the company name here. So the main idea is to share with you a real case with real data that we work it, right? So this is the main topics about this company. So it's a software development company. So this is a challenge, right? So if we are talking about Agile, we are have a challenge to work on the development company. So more than 10,000 employees. So it's a huge environment. So it's a huge company, and they are working not only from development perspective, but we have the support, we have the sales team, finance team, but we can at least have this 10K employees. So more than 40 countries. So this is a big challenge because we work across the countries with different locations and regions. So it's very important to show that as well. Working with Atlassian has been 5 years. So it's not an old company with an old instance of Jira. They started to work with Jira and Confluence has been 5 years. So it's I can say that it's something new. It's not something old, but they worked a lot with Jira and Confluence. So they had a lot of challenge to improve their process. So 5 years was a good experience to understand all the process. This is a good topic as well. They started the digital transformation in 2017. So again, it's something new. It's not something old. So they started to think about Agile in 2017, and today I will show to you that they are an Agile company. So it's perfect. 2 years. 2 years and a half to be in an Agile company with great challenge and new challenge as well, right? And then they have more than 2K users in Jira Software, more than 10K users in Confluence because they have all the knowledge base in Confluence, different development language. So it's a challenge as well because we have integration with different development tools, deployment options as well. And it's important to say, Brian, that they started with an waterfall methodology. So they not started in an Agile company. They started with waterfall. It's very usual to start with on waterfall or at least a basic process, and after that you can move to Agile, right?
Yep. Yeah. Most of our customers do this now, and or they have at one point, and that's where we step in. We help get them away from that waterfall methodology.
That's it. And we are here to help. Okay, so this is just the overview about this case. It's important to you to understand what we are talking about it. And we will see a lot of steps about this case. So this is important to understand better. So this is our transformation timeline. So this is something that I want to scare you because we are seeing that it's 2014 to 2019. So it was 5 years with a lot of process, trainings, studies, methodologies, process, experts, coached, scaling Agile, reports, metrics. So it's a lot of stuff in 5 years. So this is why I want to show to you guys the transformation timeline. So in 2014, they started to use Jira Software and Confluence for the project management. Like I said, from the waterfall perspective. 2016 was the moment that, okay, we need to improve our process here. We have a lot of issues. So Ecor, can you help us to understand better where we can improve it and prepare our environment for the future? 2017 was the Agile year. So this was the initial of the digital transformation, the agile transformation that we talked about. And 2017 was two great phase to understand agile and to start the first configuration. 2018 was the year of an agile company, let's say that, right? Because we created the standards for an agile perspective. All the deliverables from this company regarding the release, regarding the versions of their products was delivered by an agile process. They started to scale agile, right, using spoilers here, but using SAFe, using the best practice of SAFe. And this year was the year that, okay, let's work more from the report, metrics, let's show the results to our executive team, right? So as you can see, was waterfall, was a Jira and Confluence health check, agile discussion, the pilot project, because they are started with agile, the standards, all the company working in an agile perspective, scale on agile, and phase 8 metrics. All right, it's a lot of stuff, right, Brian? I know it's a lot of phase here for the customer, right?
Quite a bit, but no one said it was easy, right? So it takes a lot of work, and once you get to that point, it's all worth it.
Yes, that's it. And it's important to say that it's not necessary to start with the phase 1 to phase 8. Sometimes we have a customer working on a phase 4, for example, because they are starting with a Kanban project and they starting to work with Scrum. We can start from there, right? So it's not necessary to move to waterfall, after that move to agile, after that scale, after that metrics. No, actually we will adapt this timeline regarding and base it on the customer side, right? This is very important because it's something live. It's something live. It's not possible to say that you need to follow all these steps. No, actually, core and all the customers are working together to see where we can improve it and where we can start as well.
Makes sense.
Right. And this is just a big picture about it. So all the phase here, we work at a lot of with steps, working with the company. So we started to understand their process and all the phase. This is the timeline that we want to share with you as well, right? So all the topics that we will discuss here on this webinar, it's related to this big picture here. So this is good to understand that it's not a small process, it's a huge process, but we get there. So we are there. So we are improving the software there and they are delivering in an agile process as well. Okay, perfect. So before we start the real work here on this case, I just want to share with you guys some important points before we start to work with this transformation. So this is more from the eCore side. So this is not something from this case, from this particular company. So this is something that we want to share our knowledge with you and our experience. So this is something that it's important to you to understand before thinking about the agile transformation, just to be aligned with the best practice from our expertise and with the other companies' expertise as well, right? So for example, let's start with the basic. Because if you start with a complex process, can be a nightmare, right, Brian? You really love this word, right? Nightmare, because we can see a lot of issues in the customer environments because they are starting to work with all the process at the same time. So be careful, start with the basic. Let's see how we can use it, right? And after that, it's your first process, right? It's your first configuration in Jira, it's our first configuration in Confluence, so will not be perfect because process, it's something alive again. So it's something that we need to improve it along of the years, weeks, months, days, hours, so it's something live. So don't worry about it because we will not be perfect and you can find some problems and we are here to help you as well, right? Do a health check. So this is very important because, like I said, it's something that you always have work to do in your process. So do a health check in your environment. Start enhancements and change in your environment as well, right? try something new. So this is the moment that, okay, can I take a look on the methodologies on the market, or where I can improve my process from other experience as well. So this is for your future. So looking for the future, try something new, right? You need to train your team. So you are not an expert in Agile. You are not an expert in Atlassian tools as well, right? And we need to have trainings. We need to train our team. So not only in tools, but practice methodology. So don't be afraid to train your team, because they will be the uh, people and the person that will use this process, use this tool, and deliver your product. So you need to train your team, right? Have this is very important. So have the sponsorship of your executive team, because if you are working something new without any sponsorship of executive team, your manager, your leadership team, I don't know, the C level, or at least from top to bottom, probably will be hard to say that this is valid. This is important to use. So this is very, very, very useful to understand with your executive team, right? Continuous improvement. So after all this process, you are an Agile expert, you are an Atlassian expert, but you need to work on continuous improvements as well, right?
Yep, makes sense.
And work with experts, right, Brian? We are experts, but we are not saying only from Atlassian experts. We are saying about process experts, from Agile coach process, from a safe process. So work with experts, right? We are here to help you. So this is our job, not only to put in a whole process, but understand your side. So the expert is the best way to implement that. It's a lot of stuff, right, Brian? A lot of topics here, but I believe you can just bring a summary about the transformation, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, this is something very important. Even if I'll give everybody a moment to grab a screenshot or something, just because when you look at this summary, there are quite a few steps here, right? But at the end of the day, it's not reinventing the wheel, right? We're trying to help companies like the ones that are out there now deliver software faster and better. And when you start to get an idea and start to uh, look at this summary and kind of make it your mantra, becoming more agile becomes a lot easier.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you, buddy.
Sure.
Okay, so let's start our journey here. So let's go through the phase number one. You see that we have 8 phases, right? Remember the phase. So let's start with Atlassian. So if we are working with Agile, if we are working tools, so now let's work with practice and tools. So it's important to say on this specific company, because we are talking about this case, they didn't start with Agile methodologies, right? So the first Atlas implementation was to cover all the waterfall process. Was something that, okay, let's use Jira, let's use Confluence to manage our projects. Let's use a Gantt chart, let's use a bunch of reports, automations, let's connect with Confluence. So uh, it's important to understand that we can use it in the other process. So at the beginning of this journey of this customer, eCar was not there at the beginning of this process. So they started to implement all the process by their own. So they started to work with Jira, they started to work with Confluence, with all the process, and all the marketplaces apps as well, because we have a lot of marketplace apps there. So the process, standards, and new tools was applied for all the development teams. Was more from a real rollout for the entire company. Let's say they created the process, and Monday they said that this is the new process. So let's start to work on this process, and let's work with these tools as well, right? So this was the start of Atlassian tools, and they started with Jira and Confluence. And I know, Brian, this is not the new logo of Jira and Confluence, because in that time, in 2014, was this logo of Jira Confluence. So this is the old logo. It's the original logo on that time, right? And they started with add-ons as well. with some add-ons, some apps. In that time, I believe was plugins, was not even add-ons or apps right now, so it was plugins. So it was not 6 or 8 plugins. You see that was a lot of plugins
Holy moly.
in Jira and Confluence. So I have more actually. I have just the small list, the initial list, and during the process uh, they were installing more add-ons, more apps, plugins to use it. So as you can see, I believe the exact number was something about 60 plugins installed in Jira and some of these plugins in Confluence. So what happened on 2014 and 2015 was something related to this,
Yeah.
right? It's not my computer, right? It's not my laptop. This is just a screenshot. It's just to say that be careful, right? I know that during Confluence we have a lot of flexibility to configure and use apps, but this can happen, right? We can have performance issues. We can have uh, problems to use the process. A lot of automation working are not working on the environment, right? So it's wrong. It's not. This was the first, I believe, the first topic that I said on the transformation summary, right? Keep it simple or start with the basic, because this is the best moment to do a rollout to a company, or at least to try it before a full rollout, right? But what was our answer here, Brian? Don't worry, that's okay. That's okay, right? We are here to help you. So it's not our first time to see that we have a huge environment with a lot of add-ons, plugins, with a lot of integrations between different third-party tools. Don't worry, that's okay. So this was our first answer in 2015, right? So this was the first moment that we started to talk about enhancements on this company, right? So that's okay. Let's work on that. So now was the phase two. So the phase one was a nightmare, right? At the beginning of this process, probably was good because, oh, it's a new tool, it's nice, it's working good. But when it started to use 2,000 users, we started to create a lot of content there with a lot of add-ons. This probably will be and affected all the users with the performance, with the work, and was not a good first impression about Jira Conference, right? So we started phase number two. So the phase number two was the health check, because uh, it's not the job of ECOR saying that we are wrong and you need to do this way. No, you need to understand what was the plan of the customer side, what you planned to implement, what was your idea, your roadmap. So let's work together. So we did a health check on the all the environment, the whole environment of Jira Conference, like hardware requirements. Let's see the hardware requirements. Let's see your projects configured. Let's see all your apps. So we started with the hardware environments. We reviewed all the current structure about the project types, issue types, workflows, fields. So all the configuration in Jira on the project, we started to review to see that, okay, we are using 1,000 projects with 1,000 schemes or issue types, or 200 issue types in each scheme. So we started to understand the environment. So automation between different projects and perspective, and of course the plugins, right? So this uh, was the moment that we were scared about their environment, because a lot of app, right? A lot of plugins. So we worked on all the apps. We verified all the functionalities. We start to talk with stakeholders to understand their requirements, which apps we are really using, based on a health check, verify which app we can leave. So all these steps to reduce the number of existing apps, right? And after that, we start to formalize a big picture about the new process. So this will be the idea of health check at the end of the day is to show a report saying that we need to fix this, and that to at least be feasible to use Jira Conference right now. right? So we are not changing the process. We are just saying that just be careful about these items because these items are affecting your environment. So let's work on this process here on these topics, and after that you can start to plan. I don't know, probably to put enhancements, put another process or another methodology as well, right? So all this was the result of 2016 because they started 2014. At the end of 2015, we start to talk with them, and 2016 we start to at least put this environment in a good shape, right? But we are not talking about Agile right now, Brian. We are just talking about the old process,
Right.
right? So this was the initial result about enhancements, about innovation, about change on the environment, and the support requests as well,
Makes sense.
right? Just to say show the results of the first year of the the contact with this customer, right? So the next phase was starting scale, right, Brian?
Right. And, this leads to one of our questions, right? So, how we define a long term plan for an Agile implementation in a scaling company. This is a very important question that we're asked, I don't want to say daily, but definitely weekly from our customers that call in and try to work with us and start that partnership. So, maybe you could shed some light on that, Fernando.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, it's hard to say that we have a magic recipe here. So it's not easy to say that this is perfect. If you follow that, you'll be 100% right. So it depends from your perspective. It depends from the customer side, like I said. But this work and this worked in a different customers as well, right? So this is why we are starting with what is Agile, right? So this is the first question. So uh, we have a lot of agile trainings, agile workshops, agile cars, agile, I don't know, webinars, or starting to talk about agile, but we need to be prepared. So you need to have at least a consulting working with you, and you need to have training on agile because it's not only about, oh, now I understand what is Scrum, working with sprints, backlogs. So you need to have an expert from your side, right? From the agile perspective, I'm not talking about Atlassian perspective here. So at least you can have an idea on how works agile. You need to review your current process. So you need to review your pain points related to your tools, your process, your teams. Let's hear from your users how you are using the tool right now, right? And connect with the Atlassian experts and train these guys to use better the tools, right? Because it's not only about tools, it's about process, it's about people, it's about culture. They need to understand how to use it, right? So let's create a pilot. So the first project in your company needs to be a real project, of course, but with a team that have enough maturity to understand what is agile and be the pilot for that. It's not a company rollout yet. It's just a pilot. They need to understand that, right? And during this pilot, they can learn, they can improve, they can work better on your process. So let's work on the learn and improve. Let's After that, we have maturity enough to say this is uh, an ideal process for this beginning, right? So let's start to train your company in the new process. So let's work with Agile, let's work with Jira, let's work with Confluence, and this is our standard. And after that, you can do the company rollout, right? So as you can see, it's understand the process, have an expert on the process, understand your current environment from an Atlassian perspective, work with your Atlassian expert, work on trainings, and implement the pilot. The pilot is, in my opinion, this is the crucial moment to say that we are ready to go to an agile perspective, and if not, how we can improve that, right? So
Yeah.
probably this can answer the question, right, Brian?
Yeah, for sure. It does.
Okay. Perfect. So understanding Agile. So this is the phase number 3. We work on the phase number 1 to using Atlassian, phase number 2 to work on the improvements or the current environment. So let's start the Agile transformation here. So at least understand Agile, right? So after all this process and enhancements on the current process, this company started to think Agile or thinking about Agile. So what you need to do to start with Agile? So started to work with vCore to understand the pain points from the company, from the tools, and we start to talk about, okay, guys, now it's about process and it's not about tools. So we need to work on the process, right? And at least you need to have the sponsorship from your executive team. And this was great because the executive team just gave a blank card to say that, go ahead. You have all the support from our team here to do that. So don't worry about costs. Don't worry about results right now. So let's work on this environment and I will give you permission to do all. Right? So we started to work with the process. It's not only about tools. I always keep saying that it's about process and teams as well.
I agree.
Right? So they start. Yep, you agree. It's good. So it's our customers. So we need to be related to them, and we need to be side by side from the process as well. Right? So they started to do that. So this was the overview about the change from the Agile perspective. So the phase 1 was, okay, let's do the Agile methodologies training. So let's work with Scrum. So that was not something from 1 week. They training a lot with different teams, with Scrum Master, product owner, Agile coach working together, the routines, the Scrum perspective, what is the ceremonies that they need to be careful. So it was a full training for a bunch of teams, at least the initial teams that was the pilot for this transformation, right? After that, they start to work, okay, we have agile mindset. We have an lean mindset now working with these teams. So let's map the current process. So let's improve the current process. And the phase 3 was the connection between agile coach and Jira experts because we need to work with the agile teams as well. We are agile teams. We can work with an agile coach, but in a huge company with 10,000 users or 10,000 employees, we need to work together. So we created a team. And the phase 4 for this change was to create the solution design for this new process. So based on the Scrum methodology, right? So this was the first phase for understanding Agile and start the next steps to implement that in their company. Okay, so one more question here, Brian.
Yeah, yeah. Another question that our customers are asking all the time are, what happens when you have multiple teams simultaneously adopting Agile across an organization, and how we help this company overcome those challenges? Boy, if I had a nickel for every time I heard that question,
Yeah,
maybe you can help.
yeah, it's not easy as well. So it's I will not say that, oh, it's just follow that will be perfect, don't worry about, because sometimes it's more aggressive from the customer that say I need to do a rollout, a full rollout, or I don't have enough time. So are you sure if you are prepared to be an agile? So you need to be careful, right? We need to work hard, but at least we need to have time for that. It's not something that we can do this week and next week all the company is agile, right? So in this case, it is very similar from our initial diagram, initial roadmap. So pilot project. So the pilot will be the first and the important moment for this transformation, right? Because they will work together and they will deliver this project an agile team, or at least this product, right? Because they will be able to learn and improve that. So they can understand that, okay, let's change it, let's change this, that, let's work together to understand how we can improve that. After that, we can train all the company. So at least the development teams, or at least the agile teams that we work together to deliver the products, right? So we need to train everyone. And finally, we have the company rollout. So it's not something quickly, right? So we need to be patient. We need to have patience. We need to be safe, right? At the end of this transformation, need to be safe, not the safe framework, right? But we need to be safe, right? As always in our life, we need to be safe, right? Okay, so this was the process on how we can use it, or at least how we can work with a lot of teams together. Can we create some parallel pilots? Yes, absolutely. We can create not a war room, because it's not a war room, it's not a war right now, but we can create a learning room to work with these Scrum Masters, do a Scrum of Scrum to understand better how we are connecting the teams, so we can do that, right? So let's work together to accomplish that. Okay. Starting with Agile. So we understand that, okay, now we are prepared to start with Agile, right? Because we work on the trainings, we define the pilot, we define the new process, and we define the teams that are working together to that, right? So let's start with Agile. This is something that I really like to show, because usually when we are not working a full roadmap of Agile for the entire company, but when we are talking about Jira Software, for example, we can have different phases to use Jira Software. The phase number one, it's the initial Agile practice, but we are not talking about Scrum, but we are talking about Kanban, about daily checkpoints, and we will start work to understand the Scrum roles, right? But this was something that uh, was not really good on this company, because we received the sponsorship to go ahead and work as a Scrum team as well. So we started with the phase two, but we started correctly and with time, right? So uh, we did time to have enough information to start on the phase two. So we started with a really big picture about release, starts and epics, the product backlog, sprint plan, retrospective, and lessons learned, right? With Kanban as well, with daily checkpoints, with the project vision as well, right? So we start on the phase two, but if you are starting from a small company, or at least you want to start on an agile view, you can start with the phase one, right? If I can a small project, we can start to work on the future of your strategy as well. So you can do that, right? So for the phase two, we started to work correctly in Jira Software. So this was the moment that we just leave it all the add-ons, all the crazy add-ons, the plugins, and start to work with the default features of Jira Software. Keep it simple, right? Project backlog, integration between Epic and stories, sprint definition, user story estimates is very important, Kanban board, release management, agile reports, and retrospectives. So all the ceremonies that we can use in Jira Software, we use it, and it was very important to understand how we can uh, improve it and how we can learn better with this approach, right?
Yep.
So the strategy, like I said, was to create a pilot. So work with the pilot, right? And the main idea about this pilot was to work during the 3 months, because was during the specific release from this company, because the main idea that we defined with the Scrum team was one release with a calendar of 3 months, and working 8 sprints to deliver that release, right? So every new release of this project was planning to be in 3 months, right? With 8 sprints work on that.
Right.
Okay, so we did that on the project, on this pilot, right? So during this time was the perfect timing to understand how we can learn, and what we learned, and how we can improve it, the process that we are planning, right?
Yep.
So easy enough. Pilot, uh, just to plan your delivery for your product and understand how we can improve it. right? And now, finally, the company rollout. So let's say that now we need to be an agile company with all the company working in an agile perspective, right? It's not easy because now we understand that the first pilot or the second and third or multiple pilots that we worked together was enough to understand. Probably yes, because we are safe that we deliver that release, we learn it, we improve it, and we are ready to understand that, right? So we work directly with the agile roles, right? So Scrum Master, Product Owner, the agile teams, the stakeholders, the executives was important to at least be together as a team, like I said, right? So we worked with Jira Software and Confluence to understand that. And each team from each product or each product and all the teams working with this product was moved to the agile process,
Right.
right? So they just create uh, the moment that they stop it. So this is the company rollout. It's important. So the step number one was okay. Our phase number one. Sorry, it's step number one, but phase number one. Deliver all the release, the current release with the old process because they are ongoing, right? So let's just create a cutoff here and say for the next release we will deliver in Agile. Because if you start with Agile, with the current release, with the current process, can be a nightmare again, right? So you can deliver the release with the old process, the current one. Prepare the teams to the sprint chains, start the new calendar of release in sprints, organize the release, organize the sprints for this release, and all the teams work in the same process and standards, right?
Right.
So this is what the moment that you said, okay, probably we will face a lot of uh, improvements or feedbacks from the customer during this moment. So when we started phase 4 on this rollout was the moment that the core was more closed on this customer because they needed our support for new enhancements environments and validate if it was necessary and if it's feasible to work it on their requirements, right? So this was the company rollout, Brian. It's easy to see that we have just a small box here. It's perfect, right? But what's something I don't know if you remember the timeline was something from 2017 to 2018. It was 2 years working from the pilot, from the process, pilot, and the rollout.
Yeah, you made it look nice and easy here for sure.
Yeah, yeah, but at the end of the day, we are here to help, right? So we understand better this process, and we want to work together with our customers as well, right? And phase 6, an agile company. So this is just a small numbers about the agile company when we did the transformation in 2018. Jira users, agile teams working in agile process. It's amazing, right? Products that was moved to agile process and Jira projects as well, right? So this is the agile numbers on this company. It's a big company. It's a big numbers from an agile perspective, right?
Right.
Okay. Now it's the phase 7. So this is the moment that, okay, we are an agile company, right? So you are saying that you can deliver all our products in an agile perspective, right? So this was the question from the executive team. So you can deliver in an agile perspective, in an agile way. Now I need to connect my strategic initiatives or my vision from my company to your operational teams. Because here, to work on an agile company, we are working more from the operational side, right? We are working more from the developers, the teams that are working on the task to deliver the product. The next step was, okay, let's connect this operational team with our strategic team, right? So this was the moment that, okay, let's start to scale Agile. Let's start to connect this executive team with all the deliverables and the delivery from my operational team, from different products, from different initiatives, from different teams. So this was the new challenge in 2018. So in the middle of 2018, we received the request to start to build this process, right? So it was not easy because was a recently changed to Agile, right? So we started to think about, okay, let's work on a similar process. Let's work to verify what is the best approach, what is the best framework for that, how we can use our current process with the existing process. So we just created all the definition to understand that, okay, let's work on this standard, and ECOR worked in a lot of few steps to guarantee the success, like I said, of this scale. Because we did that for Agile, so let's do the same for scaling Agile, right? So we started with 6 main steps on scaling Agile. Understanding the situation. So we need to understand the current environment from the Jira software perspective, right? We need to understand if they are using the best practice. What is the best Agile framework, scaling Agile framework? Now we have the spoilers, right? Because I'm saying, what is the scaling Agile frameworks? And the next topic, it's safe structure using Jira. So it's the safe framework. We decide to that, right? Or at least not the whole routine of safe, but the main structure, the main idea, right? Let's change the Jira software architecture to map with the safe principles and understand how we can connect with the strategic team. And let's see the portfolio solutions, right? Which options we have. Okay, so this was the scale agile challenge that we worked with. So assessing the situation before we start talking on how we can scale, right, for portfolio management, we need to understand the main idea about the current process. So the plan was, let's see the current Jira software process, let's scale Jira to a portfolio view, and let's work on the reports and metrics to understand that, okay, was feasible and all the company has an agile perspective and a scale agile perspective as well, right? The second moment was, let's see the Jira software best practice, because to connect with a strategic side and just and safe framework, we need to understand if you are following the best practice. So this was very similar from what we did before, from project backlog integration between epic stories, sprint definition, user story priorities. So this was something new, user story estimates, and all the perspective from the delivery side, right?
Right.
The item number 3 was decide which scaling agile framework we use it. So we started with safe, right? So like I said, we are not working with all the routines of safe, but the main structure on how we can show to the customer a roadmap or at least decisions that they can make with a specific process. So we started with an epic, feature, story, and we just used this safe structure in Jira, translating safe, right? Because we have some different names and different labels from safe to Jira. So we worked with initiative, epic, and story on the scaling agile. And safe, it's epic, feature, and story. So it's the same process. So it's the same level, but we are just changing the name in Jira software to match with the main requirements.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
So this was the portfolio picture about the portfolio level with initiative, program level with the epic and release, so the release vehicles that we started to use, and the team level with the backlog, story connected to epic, and the epic connected to initiative, right? So the first level from the executive team was working on the initiative side. So this was something that we never worked before on this company. We just worked with epic and story. So the initiative level here, so this first level from the portfolio level, was the new process that we created in Jira, right? So in this case, we started a new architecture in Jira. So considering all this best practice, we just started a new process. And this new process was kind of this picture, because in the past we worked project by product and teams working on these projects, right, to deliver these products and the sprints and all the deliverables. We created a new project here to organize the initiatives, like an intake process. So we just created a funnel to understand that this is the initiative. So this is the strategic side for this company. And let's connect these initiatives with your product. So Epic is linked with this initiative. So for example, one initiative I can have Epics between different products because initiative is something strategic that can take, I don't know, 1 year to deliver that, 6 months, 2 years, it's something huge. So we started to connect the products and the initiatives, right? So we create exactly this picture on the customer environment.
Right.
Okay, and we started working the portfolio solutions, and we have in that time we had different solutions for that. For example, portfolio for Jira, big picture, structure. But the main idea was let's since we are an agile company, let's use a tool that can help us with more automation side, with more easily to organize that, right? To organize the project. So we decided to work with Portfolio for Jira because we can have an agile roadmap management. We can connect the business with the operational team, and you can have all the options that we are using Jira software automatically for Jira portfolio for Jira. Sorry, right?
Right.
Now I can give you Brian and all the guys here a new spoilers. We are working with Jira Line, right? So Jira Line is something new on this Atlassian portfolio because they bought Agile Craft and now Jira Line is something from our portfolio. So in that time, you can probably make some questions for me, Brian. Did you recommend that Jira Line or portfolio for Jira at that time if you had this two type of situation? I would say that Jira Line was the best option at that time, or the best option because it's a better tool for safe framework, right?
Right.
So we can have more pictures, we can have more information, right? It's not the moment to talk about Jira Line. Probably we'll have a webinar to talk about Jira Line, right, Brian? But it's important to say that Jira Line is something that we are considering as our first option if you are scaling for an entire company or your entire organization, right? It's an enterprise tool.
Right.
Okay, so we started with portfolio for Jira, and we have one more question here, right, Brian?
Yeah, I think this is the final one, right? So, what specific processes are needed to adapt these tools to the complexity of migrating different teams, areas, products, and technologies? Another big one that we hear all the time.
Yeah, it's another big one. So we talked about Agile, we talked about Atlassian, and we talked about scale, right? So scaling Agile. So this is the three main topics that we need to be prepared. Implement Agile. So this is the main topics that we need to understand what is the process that can help us. So an Agile coach, or usually the people uh, are concerned about coach, the word coach. Doesn't matter if it's a coach or agile company or agile consulting company, you need to be to have experts on your side. Kanban method, so we can start simple, right? Keep it simple. Work on the Scrum methodology, work on the agile routines, and keep it a lean mindset. This is very important.
Right.
So from the implementing agile, this is the main topics. From Atlassian tools, you need to have a solution partner because they have experience. So we have experience to do that, right? So eCore can help you to build your Atlassian tools based on the best practice of Agile. So Jira and Confluence best practice, and keep it simple, right? We need to keep it simple to be working together. And scale on Agile, safe framework. So you have to work on trainings as well because safe, it's not easy if you are trying to follow all the routines and methods for this methodology, for this framework. So trainings and SPC. So SPC, I am SPC. So I know that it's not easy to work on a framework of like safe. And we are here to help you as well, right? Executive team training. So we need to train the executive teams because we are scaling Agile for one reason, to connect the strategic side with your operational side. And we need to be prepared to executive team training. and the company support. So we need to be prepared to, okay, we are going forward to have a support and work as a team, right?
Right.
We need to work as a team. Okay? And phase A, this was the phase that we are working on 2019. It's show more metrics in the results. So the request from the executive team was, okay, I can see my roadmap, I can see the strategic side, but I want to see more reports. And this is very common, right? Brian, who don't like a good report with good graphics, with a good image and bars and charts and etc. Right? So it's very common to receive this type of request. And EasyBI was the first decision because the idea was to keep it in Jira, all the information, and not create a new BI. But we can connect, for example, Jira in our existing BI, for example, Tableau, or I don't know, other tools that we are using for BI or monitoring tools as well. But we just decided to use EasyBI to keep it in Jira, right? So we just created a bunch of new metrics related to Agile sprints and versions, the specific report about work resolved, bar chart about the sprint and start points resolved from a velocity chart, with more things in one picture, dashboards with ESBI was good to understand better, with talking about numbers as well, so it was very, very important to see that. And we created different views for the customers, right? So all the users and the executive team was able to create metrics and have this result, okay? And that's it, 8 phases, right, Brian? I know it's a lot of content to work and understand from your company, but it's important to see that you can identify which phase you are facing right now. And we are here to help on all this phase, from the beginning of the usage of Atlassian, with the thinking about or feelings about changing for Jira Agile or Agile overview or Agile methodology, and scale on that and metrics as well. Right? So at the end of this journey, just the summary, the challenge and the solutions that we face it. So restructuring all the development teams, right? The squads for the Agile mode. New roles, Scrum, Master, PO, all these roles are new in the company, so we need to be prepared. Change of culture and mindset of the operational teams, right? And the top management team as well, because we are working to develop the product and connect to the strategic team. Need a tool for a flexible and agile development. I know the answer. You know the answer, right, Brian? So it's not easy. It's not difficult to understand.
Right.
Specific configuration the tool to guarantee the process. We know the answer, and everyone knows the answer. And the complexity in migrate different teams, right, from different segments, products, and technology as well. So the solution, Atlassian Partner Expert Support. So this is very important, like I said. The roadmap of this environment. We need to train the team. Jira with the high flexibility to use it and adapt the Scrum framework for that. Development implementation of team phase rollout. Like I said, we need to create the pilots. We need to be team by team. And the flexibility of Jira to create the workflows and migrate all the teams on different characteristics. Right? This is the last question, Brian. So
yeah, this is actually a really important one too. So what tools provide parameters to support agile development principles?
yeah, it's not difficult to answer, right? We talked about Atlassian, so we are an Atlassian expert, so we have the tools for that, right? So this is just a big picture about this customer. So do you remember they started with Jira and Confluence and a lot of add-ons, right, Brian? Do you remember that blue screen that I showed to you guys?
I still remember the nightmare.
Yeah, it was a nightmare, right? So we just select the specific add-ons for Jira and Confluence to do that, right? So we talked about a lot of Jira and Confluence, but they started on DevOps transformation as well, right? Can help an agile transformation? Absolutely. So they started with Bitbucket and Bamboo from Atlassian, but was not possible to leave the TFS as well. So let's connect CFS with our tools, right? We can do that. So it's not necessary to use only Atlassian. You can use different tools, and we can connect these tools with Atlassian, right? So we connected Jira Software with the TFS tool from Microsoft to see the check-ins, see all the work items in Jira Software as well, and integrate with Bamboo from the development and deployment perspective, right?
Right.
So as you can see in Jira, we use it script runner, and feed, tempo timesheet, task management for Jira for the test process, prop fields for the projects because we have custom fields, and EasyBI reports and gadgets, right? Portfolio was solution for the SAFe framework, Confluence for all the knowledge base with Komala workflow. So all the pages that the user and the company are creating, we are using a workflow to publish this page for the customers and external customers as well, and Draw.io to create the diagrams for this company,
Right.
right? So we have the big picture here about the tools, right? And talking about the Agile company, we talked about Jira users, Agile teams, products, and Jira projects, and we started to work with more than strategic initiatives. So we started with a lot of numbers on the strategic initiative as well at the end of this journey, right? So this is good numbers and great numbers. And at the end of this transformation, we worked with all these 8 phases here, right? From 5 years, and we worked from all this roadmap here, right, Brian?
Right.
So I know it's a lot of content, right? It's a lot of information that we are sharing here, but this is our feedback. So this is our uh, case, and this is a real case from a real company that worked from the beginning of usage of Atlassian, the issues that they faced with the waterfall process and the Atlassian tools, starting with the Agile approach, working with scale this Agile metrics, and have an Agile company for a full capability of the teams work on that, right? So this is my main idea here today was sharing this experience, and uh, I can say that I worked from the beginning of this project. So it was something that I can really say that was not easy. We had hard times during this process, but we need to work as a team. And this company was really open to work as a team and give us authority and maturity to work with them as a team, as a partner, and a party of this company as well. That's it from my side, Brian.
Yeah, at the end of the day, Fernando, I love when you demonstrate the passion, right? Because you could always tell that you've put a lot of work and effort into these projects, and you've helped many consultants within eCore working with these businesses in delivering solutions that really make changes, right? From a positive perspective. So, with that being said, I'd like to thank you for your time today. You did a fantastic job in demonstrating how we can answer those 4 questions and quite a bit more on top of that. My favorite part was definitely the nightmare and how we came from the nightmare. So, very impressed with that. So thank you again. I appreciate it quite a bit.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. Thank you for all the support, and I'm really happy to share this knowledge, right? Because it's something that we usually are working with the companies, and they are usually have the same concerns about that, and we are sharing on this webinar real stuffs here, and something that usually, like you said, during the weeks we are receiving a lot of requests. So we are here to help. I know it's a lot of information, right? It's not easy to, in one webinar, in 1 hour, understand all this process, but at least you can share the message to say that it's possible. You have the support, and eCard, it's the company that can help you to build that, right? Brian, you are a great man from the sales perspective, and I know that we are here to help the customers and all the requests that we receive. And I'm working with you from the technical perspective. So, guys, you have a super team here, right? So we are here to help as well. So thank you for your support, Brian, and I appreciate it to have you here again on this webinar.
Yeah, thank you as well, and of course, thank you to everybody who has attended today. We'd be happy to answer any questions or concerns that might have come up. Feel free to contact us. Our contact information is all over the invites, all over the web, on our website. You'll have plenty of places to reach out to us. And with the holidays fast approaching, I'd like to wish everybody a happy holiday. We probably won't see you before the end of the year, so a happy new year to you and yours as well, and look forward to seeing you in January.